Bully pours soda into girl's food, and she silently eats it. She wanted to plead for mercy, but the bullies laughed and then threw the food on her. The girl was scared and speechless, but a chubby boy couldn't bear it anymore. The bully was surprised and mocked him for being the top of the 10 losers, but he didn't know that the chubby boy was no longer a pushover. The male protagonist, Eric, is a gang boss with billions of assets. Perhaps out of a guilty conscience, he helped a penniless chubby boy pay for a bowl of noodles one day. The owner said he had a surprise for him, but on his way home, he got stuck in traffic. He wanted to smoke to relieve his boredom, but suddenly a 500-pound man fell from the building and landed on him. When Eric woke up in a hospital bed, he only remembered being knocked unconscious. He walked into a hospital room in a daze and found himself lying there. However, at that moment, a middle-aged man hurriedly hugged him and claimed to be his father. Eric was furious and said, "Isn't my father dead?" Then he threw the man aside. But the next second, he was stunned because he had turned into the chubby boy. After being diagnosed by a doctor, he was defined as having amnesia and split personality disorder. However, the gang boss was not willing to become a fat man. He came to the hospital room and repeatedly hit himself, wishing he could immediately go back. But when his subordinates saw him, he blamed him for causing his brother's condition. Eric was heartlessly kicked out again. Helpless, he followed the chubby boy's father back home. The next day, he wanted to investigate the truth about his own victimization at school, but a group of bullies was bothering a female student, which disturbed him while he was eating. He took the opportunity to intervene, but he didn't expect the bullies to come after him. Eric raised his hand and slapped them, leaving them stunned in their tracks. The former loser now acted so brutally. Later, in the bathroom, Eric took their phones. It turned out that the bullies had hung Monica's shoes in the air, and the chubby boy had fallen on Eric accidentally while trying to get them, which led to the predictable outcome of Eric teaching the bullies a lesson. That night, he went to his hospital room and tried to convince his subordinate, Hunk, that their souls had switched bodies. The next day, Eric estimated that he would leave school after class, but then Monica's doll fell in front of him. He hurried to return it and found out that Monica's mother was his first love. As he recalled everything he had experienced with Faith, he couldn't help but suspect Monica's identity. That day, he grabbed a handful of Monica's hair and did a paternity test, which shocked him when he discovered that Monica was his daughter. One day, when the bullies lost something, they blamed Monica. Eric couldn't stand it any longer and took the blame. Then, he found his subordinate, Hunk, and they both decided to teach Monica comprehensive combat skills. After days of training, Eric even transformed into a handsome guy. One day, he went to Monica's house and looked at her childhood photos. He felt the pain of not being able to protect her properly. However, after training with Eric, Monica faced the bullies again. She lifted a dish and put it in front of the bully's face. Then, she avoided another attack and threw the dish on the ground. Eric watched with satisfaction. That night, Eric went to Monica's mother's shop and confessed his identity to Faith. However, she couldn't believe in soul switching. Eric said, "You have a freckle in the shape of a peach near your belly button." Faith was stunned, but she couldn't accept Eric's current appearance. She remembered how he had broken up with her and said he would marry the president's daughter. She kicked him out. The next day, Eric asked Faith out again and kissed her in front of everyone. Faith was so angry that she slapped him and wanted to take him to the police station. That day after school, she confessed her love to Eric, which surprised him. He didn't expect that his kindness to his daughter would be misunderstood as romantic interest. Later, Eric found Faith and wanted to go back to their previous life, but Monica overheard their conversation. Eric told Monica that he loved her mother, which made Monica feel hopeless. However, on the other side, a man in a suit was preparing to assassinate someone. At that moment, Eric, who was still in the chubby boy's body, suddenly woke up and scared the man away. The chubby boy went home and cried to his father, who was also frightened. The man was frightened and stepped back, but fortunately, his real son came back. However, when the two met, they quickly checked each other's body. The old father was stunned. After Randy patiently explained, the father finally understood that the two had switched souls, and the gang boss had become his own son. On the other side, the president suddenly summoned Eric. Helpless, they wrote a script and had Randy pretend to be Eric and go in. Through the mini earphone, Eric and Randy took turns speaking, but the president asked Eric to inherit billions of assets. However, at that moment, the earphone malfunctioned. Facing the huge fortune, Randy said that he realized that being with the one he loves is the happiest thing after being injured. He then gave up the inheritance. Eric was expected to scold him, but instead, he gave Randy a grateful hug. However, the next second, the president's daughter suddenly drove a car and hit the two of them. In the hospital, Eric confessed his identity to his daughter. He felt guilty for years of neglect. At that moment, Randy suddenly fainted. Eric went to the operating room and met the owner of the noodle shop again. Their souls switched back. At the end of the story, Randy returned to school and became a popular guy, and Monica successfully conquered him. Eric and Faith also ran a noodle shop and began a happy life.
Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.